Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome inside the gymnasium here at Milford High School as Milford TV is happy to bring you coverage of Scarlet Hawks athletics. This is Tim Coet on the call as we kick off our first coverage of this 2017-2018 athletic year, a brand new school year and a brand new year of Scarlet Hawks athletics coverage here on Milford TV. We begin in this fall sports season with coverage of the Milford High School girls volleyball team, the varsity team in action here at home for the first time on the season. It is their first game on their schedule as they get set to take on a Hockomock League rival, and a good one at that, in the King Philip Lady Warriors. This has always been a fascinating matchup between these two programs over the years. Of course, it is a matchup that King Philip has gotten the better on the winning side for recent memory. As a matter of fact, these two teams have met early on in the regular season for each of the last 6 years, and in each of those matchups, King Philip has walked away with victories. 6 victories in the last 6 years against Milford. 5 of those have been 3-set sweeps. Last season was a bit of a difference maker as Milford was able to get out to a fast 2-0 lead, looking like they were finally going to end that losing streak. But KP was able to respond, winning sets 3, 4, and 5 to claim a victory. That game taking place up at the King Philip gym. Once again, the scene shifts here to Milford for these two teams that have plenty of success in the regular season and in the playoffs over the last several seasons. Both of these teams were playoff teams a year ago, with Milford operating in Division II Central, while King Philip reached the playoffs in Division I Central/East. King Philip finishing up the regular season last year at 18-2, a very impressive regular season, while Milford finished the year at 15-3. But again, both of these teams did a lot of great work in the regular season. Milford ultimately advanced all the way to the Division II Central semifinals. King Philip also made it to the semifinals in their bracket before meeting an end to their season that came much earlier than I think they would have certainly liked, and certainly earlier than a lot of people anticipated, as King Philip entered into that playoff bracket as the number 2 seed, again with that 18-2 record in the regular season. But after a victory against Newton South in the quarterfinals, it ended up being the number 3 seeded Quincy who was able to outlast KP in a 5-set exciting matchup, again in the semifinal round of those playoffs. So both of these teams making it far last year. Both teams are expected to be playoff teams once again this season. So a very intriguing matchup for our first game coverage of this 2017-18 school year. So again, it is the Milford Lady Scarlet Hawks volleyball team. They will be taking on the King Philip Lady Warriors. Some new faces on this Milford squad this season, and we will get into more detail on that as our coverage goes on here this afternoon. And of course, we should welcome in everyone who is tuning in to us live for this coverage here this afternoon. Happy to be bringing you live streaming coverage of Scarlet Hawks athletics once again. So whether you're tuning into us live via milfordtv.net or our Milford TV educational feed on the live stream app, happy to have you with us for our first coverage of this school year. And again, it will be Milford taking on King Philip. We expect the first set to begin in this match right around 5:15. So we will be here with you for full coverage of this matchup this afternoon. We will be back with the start of set number 1 when we come back next. So stay tuned to coverage of Scarlet Hawks athletics right here on Milford TV. Already a lot of intensity shown by these two teams as they take the floor for the start of set number 1. Again, it is the Milford Lady Scarlet Hawks taking on the King Philip Lady Warriors, two of the top programs out of the Davenport and the Kelly Rex divisions of the Hockomock League. So a great way for us to kick off our fall sports coverage for this 2017-2018 school year. We had an opportunity to have a front row seat to a lot of memorable games played by this Milford volleyball program a season ago. A season that ended with a second-place finish in the Davenport division and a trip all the way to the Division II Central semifinals, where their season ultimately met its end against one of their fiercest league rivals in the Canton Lady Bulldogs, a team that Milford will face a little bit later on in the season. And having an opportunity to talk to each of the new captains for this year's team, those are dates that are very much circled on the calendar moving forward this season with those two games against Davenport rival Canton. So we'll certainly look forward to bringing you the home matchup between those teams later on in the season. But in the meantime, all eyes on this matchup here this afternoon. Milford and King Philip. It will be KP serving first. The ball is in the air, and this match is underway. And we see the hit come from the far side. Returned back over by King Philip, and they will get the opening point It was a good move initially out of Nina Pinto, the junior, on that right side for Milford to get the ball back over, but KP able to answer and ultimately get the kill. And so continuing to serve for the Lady Warriors is Michaela Palumbo. And the violation on the Milford side, a double hit, and 2 quick points on the visitors' side. Again, 5 out of the last 6 years that these teams have met up, the result has been a 3-set sweep for King Philip. So Milford hoping to get some early momentum in this game. A hard hit, that's deflected off the middle row of King Philip, and it drifts out of play. So there is the first point on the Milford side. You see the returning faces out there for the Lady Hawks, most notably Kelly Reichert, who was one of the bigger offensive weapons for this team last season. Also Jill Valenzola in that front row. One of the top blockers on the team, 2 of Milford's 4 captains, Kelly Reichert and Jill Valenzola, along with the libero Kyra Alves, and also Juliana Tracy, not on the floor at the moment. And meanwhile, we'll see a substitution as it looks like Sabrina Harstick is looking to get into the game, finally recognized by the official, as she will take the place of Sydney Sutton, the junior. And meanwhile, it is Nina Pinto who will now prepare to serve the ball away. Milford changing the side of the floor in which they start these home matches on. We typically saw them here on the near side of the gym to open matches last year, but making that switch, one of many changes that this program has undergone. And it looks like finally the personnel is set on the Milford side of the floor, as Pinto now sends a high arcing serve towards the near sideline, but that one is long. And it goes as an early 3-1 lead now for King Philip. And stepping behind the service line now for the Warriors is Kat Kmetz. Met on the back line by Alves, one of the top defensive players in the Hockomock League. Now towards the front, softly tipped over by the front line of King Philip. That was Grace Ellie, the sophomore for King Philip. And so KP coming out strong. Surprisingly, they come into this matchup 0-1. Another hard serve, but met on the back line for Milford, and there's Reichert sending a rocket back over the net, but KP able to absorb it. Now another soft lob over the net. Reichert returns, and the volley continues. Now sent to the middle, a diving play by Alves to keep it alive. Now some miscommunication as both Harstick and Julia Riordan both went for the ball at the same time. And you can see the 2 players going over things after the fact, but in the meantime, it's now a 5-1 lead for King Philip after one of the longest volleys we've seen so far on the night. Once again, it's Alves who meets the serve on the back line, punched over by Reichert. Now set up on the left side for King Philip. Alves is there with the dig yet again. And the point eventually goes to King Philip, another double hit on the Milford side. So trying to work out the kinks. Again, this is Milford's first game of the regular season. They were battle tested in the preseason, a lot of scrimmages as these Milford programs tend to do. Alves will send that one all the way back over the net herself. Again, it comes hard from the left side off the hands of Kat Kmetz. And now a 7-1 King Philip lead. Setting up a lot of challenging preseason scrimmages was a hallmark of programs, volleyball programs run by Linda Zakili. And of course, no doubt you know the details. Coach Zakili forced to step down as the official head coach of this girls volleyball program for this season after once again having to undergo a battle with cancer. But the good news is Coach Zakili is in the building tonight, right now seated on the Milford bench. The head coach for this season is Milford High School alumni Dan Seaver, who worked with the JV program last season. So this team in very capable hands with Coach Seaver and also with Coach Zakili helping out as well. In the meantime, the score update 8-2 now, as Milford has fallen behind here on their home floor in set number 1. Substitution on the KP side as Sydney Phillips comes back out onto the floor, last year's Hockomock League MVP for girls volleyball. Out on that front line. As Rachel Villot prepares for the serve. And right now, one of the officials checking in at the scorer's table. First home match of the season, perhaps a glitch on the scorer's card, so the officials going over things there. Again, an 8-2 advantage for King Philip early on in this first set. Both of these teams looking for return trips to the playoffs for this 2017-2018 season. For Milford, looking to do it with a cast of many new characters on their varsity roster. It ends up an even split of returning players versus new players to this varsity roster. And you think back to last year, some big shoes to fill from that team that was so successful. Ali Zagami, who led the team in kills and aces. Allie Collins, one of the captains and assist leaders for the team, along with Lauren Zarangian. Also Stephanie Shirelli, a key contributor, both offensively and defensively. So part of this early part of the season is going to be looking for players to fill those roles. They certainly still have the talent with the players they have returning, in particular their quartet of captains. As that ball nearly grazes the ceiling, it stays in play, and Milford allows it to just drop in no man's land. And that prompts a timeout call from Coach Seaver, and you can see he is not pleased. The entire complement of Lady Hawks players on the floor just watching that ball shoot up towards the ceiling and drop down to the floor to make it a 10-2 advantage for King Philip. And so not the customary confidence that we see this volleyball program play with. They've been a little bit passive so far in this first set. Talking to the captains earlier this week, they were looking forward to this matchup. They all agreed that this was a key matchup, knowing the success that King Philip has enjoyed against Milford's volleyball programs for the better part of the last decade. They wanted to make a change coming into this season, and of course a very difficult matchup to have right out of the chute. Last season, Milford playing a non-conference matchup against Nipmuc before entering into their early season matchup with King Philip. This season they play them in game number 1. So the timeout coming to an end, both teams back out on the floor. Again, Milford trailing by 8. And King Philip continues to serve. We've seen Milford attempt just a single serve so far in this set. It continues to be Rachel Villot behind the line on serve for the Lady Warriors. And back to the scorer's table for more consultations goes this officiating crew. It's a two-man officiating crew here. One official on the floor, one up in the upper level just by the net. And so now once again, ready to continue the action. Not a great flow to this first set with all of the stoppages. And so Villot now to the back line, met by Pinto. Now here's Harstick from the left side, but a little bit too strong. Sends it wide past that far sideline, and an 11th point in the column for King Philip. Villot very tough in the service game so far. Here's Alves who meets that one cleanly. Does not quite clear the net. Reichert, unsure of how to play it, opted to let it go, and it ended up glancing off the Milford side of the net and to the floor. And an even 10-point advantage now in this first set for King Philip. A serve away. Tricky play coming up here for Reichert. With her back to the net, she's able to send it over. We saw her do that a number of times last year. That one deflected off the front line. And then it looked like it ticked off the hands of Sabrina Harstick before going out of play. And another kill on the King Philip side. All King Philip so far in this opening set. Now to the back line again for Pinto. Left for Alves to play over. She gets it there to her counterpart on the King Phillips side. Knocked back over by Sydney Phillips. Now they set it up for Reichert. Sends it across the court, but handled well. Now Wiseman sends it right to the middle. And now the hard smash by Juliana Tracy, but again absorbed by the Lady Warriors. Now the soft touch and a diving play. A nice dig by Julia Riordan. Now the smash, and that is beyond the back line. It looked like Nina Pinto was able to pull the arms back just in time so she didn't make contact with that ball. And a hard-fought point that time for Milford. We'll see if that gets them going. Sends Kelly Reichert back on serve. Right to the center of the back line. And to the left, it clears the front row of Milford. Harstick keeps it alive, and that one just tumbles over as, again, two players fought for the volleyball. Now handled, set up cleanly for Harstick, but a mishit, and she fires it into the net. Milford needing to continue to work on their communication. We've already seen now multiple occasions where players have not known who was going to take charge of a play. 14-3 now. Set up deep for Reichert. Now from the left side. That one for Michaela Palumbo, but she fires it directly into the net. And that brings it back down to a 10-point deficit for Milford. And the serve will now go to Sabrina Harstick. Instead, we'll see the substitution. Back out onto the floor comes Sydney Sutton. We may see Sutton serve as the libero at times as the season goes on, along with Kyra Alves. It's Alves who gets the nod at that position today. But there's Sutton meeting the ball on the back row. Good shot over the net by Pinto, but King Philip keeps it alive. Now right to the edge of the playing surface. Alves saves it, and eventually Milford returns. The volley continues now. Pinto to Reichert. Now Alves over the net. And the libero on the King Philip side sends it off the fingertips and down to the floor. Elise Pereira. Pereira, a very good athlete. We saw her take over as the primary starting pitcher for the KP softball team, replacing the legendary Kaylee McGain this past spring. So now showing off her skills on the volleyball court as well. A 14-5 score, and the violation on the King Philip side, and Milford slowly starting to gain a little bit of momentum, trying to climb back into this set, down 14-6. Sydney Sutton now on the serve. Couple of hard bounces, and now the ball away. Right across the middle, delivered hard by Grace Ellie. Returned back by Milford. It's Ellie again, but blocked by Juliana Tracy. That's what she can do up the middle. Timing that jump perfectly. 14-7 now. And the serve this time too hard by Sutton. Ends the momentum for now for Milford. And with a score of 15-7, it's Pereira now who will take over on serve. And too strong on the serve for KP as well. So a couple of long serves exchanged. And now it is Alves back behind the line. Juliana Tracy to the sidelines for a break. Got some encouraging words from Coach Seaver. Happy with that play at the net a few moments ago. That return from the left side for King Philip, just long over the back line. And the King Philip lead down to 6 as the serve continues. Milford trailed by as many as 10 points earlier in this set, but trying to climb back in. They'll gain another point here as the return once again crosses beyond the back line. A line drive serve, this time met by Sydney Phillips. Now from the left side, another stuff at the net by Milford. This time it was Jillian Valenzola, and King Philip hits it off the rafters in the roof of the gym. And all of a sudden, a 4-point game. Milford finding their footing. You start to see some smiles out there on the floor now for the Lady Hawks, getting comfortable with one another. Another Alves serve, waiting for it up the middle is King Philip. We see the violation on the Milford side, so that will end the service game for Kyra Alves and bring the score to 16-11 in favor of King Philip, getting into the later stages of this set now. Julianne Rando to the line now for the serve as the King Philip JV squad makes some noise. King Philip gets the kill. Julia Riordan on the front row trying to time that bounce off the net, but eluding the hands, and now back up to a 6-point King Philip lead as this serve does not clear the net. So Milford keeping it close. Riordan now on serve. Right to the back line. Played awkwardly in front by Pereira. And now 17-13. The King Philip bench trying to re-energize their players on the floor as Riordan's serve is away. Phillips plays it back, and Pereira with two hands able to get it back over the net. Now the hard shot from the left side for Pinto. Nina Pinto gets the kill, and it's down to a 3-point lead, and that forces King Philip to call the timeout. And there's the energy level up now for the Lady Hawks, a much different complexion to this timeout than the one taken just a few moments ago. So Milford making the adjustments, and now it is time for the head coach for King Philip, Kristen Guess, to start to make the adjustments on the visitors' side as things have tightened up considerably. 17-14 now the score. Milford trying to make the comeback in this opening set. And we will have much more for you coming up right after this on our coverage of Scarlet Hawks athletics right here on Milford TV. The players into this match, the fans are certainly into it as well. We had an exchange of cheers from both fan sections during that timeout as the service game continues for Julia Riordan. Trying to hug that near sideline, and it does stay in. KP thought it was out. The two officials conferred with one another, and the ruling, the point on the Milford side, so now just a 2-point differential in this game. Riordan able to get that one over. Now for the left side. Alves able to dig it. Now Pinto just could not clear the net. Ticks off the top of the tape and then back onto the Milford side. Now Michaela Palumbo, and a diving save momentarily for Sydney Sutton, but it ended up deflecting off towards the bleachers. Good effort on the dig attempts. One of the new players to this varsity roster, Sydney Sutton, but coaching staff very happy with her potential, especially in terms of her defense. Back-to-back points, meanwhile, for King Philip as they're able to stretch it back to a 5-point lead. They're 5 points away from an opening set victory. Reichert takes charge on the back line. She'll now send it softly over. He was just able to clear the front line. Not enough time for Palumbo to adjust to make the return. We know the kind of power Kelly Reichert possesses, but also very good at using those finesse shots to keep the opposition off balance. So 20-16 now. And back on serve goes Nina Pinto. Now Pereira able to two-hand it over. Now the set on the right side. Kelly Reichert, can she keep it in? That one just long. From courtside, we can't quite see that near sideline, obscured by the King Philip bench. But Reichert just unable to keep that one on the playing surface. So now 21-16, but King Philip sends the serve past the back line. And right now these teams exchanging points. Milford needs to go on a bit of a run though if they hope to catch up. Still trailing by 4, with King Philip needing just 4 more points to claim the set. Now Pereira with the violation, the double hit for the Lady Warriors. 21-18, the service game for Valenzola. And that was a rocket, just barely clearing the net. Quickly sunk down to the floor on the other side. Perfectly placed by Valenzola for the ace. An opportunity now for the captain to cut it to just a 1-point game. And that time the serve a little bit too strong. Substitution on the King Philip side before we continue. Checking back into the game, Shayla Weitzman. And back on serve now is Rachel Villot. She went on a long run earlier in the set as Milford was able to build up the lead. Kelly Reichert, quick reactions to be able to save that ball. Now set up well on the left side for King Philip, but Milford able to meet it. Harstick another chance, and again she fires it into the net. Has not quite found that touch on the left side. It's 23-19. KP now just 2 points away from a set victory. Villot continues to serve, and Kyra Alves, an unusual mishit that time, and that brings up set point for the Lady Warriors, 24-19. Milford working so hard to get back into this set, but King Philip just 1 point away from taking this opening round. Alves with another chance. She handles it cleanly. Reichert quickly dumps it back over. Now that one lofted, but it does not clear the net. King Philip having to scramble a bit. They nearly were able to send it back to the Milford side, but it hit off the top of the net, landing back on the KP side of the floor. So 24-20. With Milford's backs up against the wall, they turn to Kelly Reichert on serve. Hard shot to the back line. They set it up on the right. Milford trying for the stuff, but it ends up landing on the Milford side, and that is that for set number 1. A competitive set in the end, but King Philip able to take it 25-20. And it certainly had the feeling like Milford was trying to get the right pieces in the right places on the floor. They were certainly able to get there as the set went on, but ultimately King Philip able to build up that 10-point advantage, and they were able to just barely hold on in the end to claim the first set victory. So 1-0. King Philip leads it. Will step away as the two teams switch sides. We will have the beginning of set number 2 for you in this Hockomock League matchup between Milford and King Philip when we return next. So stay tuned to coverage of Milford High School Athletics right here on Milford TV. The two teams right back on the floor as we begin set number 2 of this varsity girls volleyball matchup. The first game of this regular season for Milford, facing the 0-1 King Philip Lady Warriors, again losing a 5-setter to Walpole earlier this week. A team that lost just 2 matches all of last season, losing their opening matchup after advancing all the way to the Division I Central East bracket in the fall of last year. Returning a lot of key players from last year's team, among them, as we mentioned in the open, the reigning Hockomock League MVP for girls volleyball, Sydney Phillips. Phillips ended up leading the team in kills in that season opening game against Walpole. She had 10 kills. Elise Pereira also played well defensively with 7 digs. And I beg your pardon, that was not a 5-setter, that was a 3-setter, a sweep for Walpole against King Philip. So a shocking loss for King Philip. And so they certainly have to feel good coming into Milford's gym and claiming their first set victory of the season. So up 1-0. Milford starts on serve, but it's delivered long by Julia Riordan. And so once again, King Philip will open a set with the lead. Milford has not yet led at any point in this match. Hoping to change that here in the second. In the meantime, the serve away by Kat Kometz. Here's Riordan, set up a bit awkwardly for Reichert. You could tell that Reichert was anticipating that ball drifting a little bit further back towards the middle. Instead, popping it straight up in the air, Reichert had to adjust midway through and in the end delivered her attacking shot right into the net. And another violation on the Milford side. And a quick trio of points and more communication from the sidelines. And right now it looks to be, in particular, Coach Seaver trying to make sure that Julia Riordan makes those adjustments on the right side. This time she pops it with 2 hands right over the net, right from point blank range. Milford lets that one go, wisely so. It was only about an inch or 2 past that back line, but you could see daylight. So a smart play to get on the board, and now it'll be the senior captain, Kelly Reichert, on serve. Again, it is Kelly Reichert along with Jillian Valenzola, Kyra Alves, and Juliana Tracy, 4 senior captains leading the way for this girls volleyball program. As Milford will get the kill to bring it to a 3-2 margin, trying to get the equalizer here now. A couple of times they were able to bring the deficit back down to just a single point in that first set, but they could not climb all the way back. Now from the left side, a hard shot from Phillips. Reichert gets to it, and Valenzola pops it back over the net for the kill, and it ties this second set up at 3. Milford now hoping to go on the same type of run that King Philip did early in that first set. But instead, Reichert too strong on the serve. And that will send King Philip back in front. Have to imagine Reichert feeling a good deal of pressure. No longer with Ali Zagami on the other side of the floor. Those two were such a powerful tandem last season. Kyra Alves sprawling out, trying for the dig, but the ball deflected back behind the Milford bench. And it makes it a 3-5 or 5-3 score in favor of King Philip. Take a look back at some of the impressive stats for Milford from last season in just a moment. As King Philip gets another kill to establish a 3-point lead. Ali Zagami ended up finishing last season with an even 200 kills. Reichert was second on the team with 165 kills. So again, such a potent duo through the regular season and into the playoffs. Here's Reichert meeting that ball on the back line. Pinto will send it over hard. Elise Pereira able to meet it. And now Phillips looking for the spike, but Milford gets the block. Again, that front line staying strong. You see Kate Lobiser out on the floor here. She didn't see much court time in that first set, but she's another player who provides a lot of height and athleticism to that front line. Now Valenzola back to serve, another missile. KP tries for the touch shot over the net, they couldn't clear. And again, the deficit just 1 point for Milford. Valenzola will go right back behind the line, one of several multi-sport athletes on this varsity volleyball roster. There's Phillips to the back line, now gets it back. Plays it over the net, but wide. Another player on this varsity squad that we have not yet seen on the floor is number 14 on the bench, Emily Pierre Gustavo, a newcomer to this girls volleyball program. Now a senior. As Milford now establishes a 7-6 lead. Emily Pierre Gustavo, of course, we're used to seeing her prowess on the basketball court in the winter and on the softball field in the spring, coming off of a year in which she claimed a Hockomock League MVP in softball, with Milford claiming a state championship last spring, but now becoming a 3-sport star. We'll see if she sees any floor time as this match goes on, as Milford could not manage the return, so knotted up at 7 in a set that has been much more evenly matched, at least in these early stages. So now Sydney Phillips will take over on serve. One of 3 captains on the King Phillips side, but Phillips' serve does not go beyond the net. 3 senior captains, Phillips along with Michaela Palumbo and Julianne Rando. So 3 captains on the KP side, 4 on the Milford side. Milford with an 8-7 lead now in the second set. And right on cue, Emily Pierre Gustavo takes the floor, sends the serve away. And so Emily Pierre Gustavo a little bit over anxious on that serve, had not gotten the nod from the official. Her first varsity action on the volleyball court, this time able to get the serve over right on cue and cleanly. And she'll get a chance here, instead gives way to Riordan. Now Tracy with 2 hands able to muscle it over. Diving dig by Alves, she sends it right back over the net. She'll get another chance here, stays on her feet. They'll set it up in front for Tracy, but Milford with the double hit, and eventually King Philip able to get the point, but a tremendous defensive play by Kyra Alves, sprawling forward and getting enough on that ball to send it clear right back over the net. So much experience on that back line for Kyra Alves. First to get to the ball yet again. Now a hard shot attempt from the left side for Milford. That time, it did not clear the net. Hard serve right into the net. That's Annabelle Murray now serving as the libero for King Philip. We saw Elise Pereira, I beg your pardon, Julianne Rando, now serving as the libero on the King Philip side. Annabelle Murray, of course, on the Milford side on the bench right now. Now from the left side, well placed by Michaela Palumbo. So seeing the swap in between sets for King Philip for their libero now. It is Julianne Rando with Pereira now taking the back line for the serve, now in the white jersey. Still a tight one in this second set. Just a 1-point lead for King Philip as Pierre Gustavo meets that on the back row. The set ends up clearing the net and shuffled right back over by King Philip. And you can see Coach Seaver pacing up and down those sidelines, taking a lot of mental notes of things for this team to continue to work on. In the meantime, very happy with that diving play by Sydney Sutton. She tries again, this time, or excuse me, Emily Pierre Gustavo this time with the diving attempt. Could not quite make up the ground, so both Sutton and Pierre Gustavo with strong defensive efforts. (12-9) now as King Philip looks to build another lead. Infraction on the Milford side expands the King Philip lead to 13-9, and that will force the timeout from Coach Seaver as he talks things over with the team. We remind you that moving forward in this fall sports season, we'll have plenty of activity for you all season long, including coverage of this girls volleyball team. We'll, of course, have plenty of coverage of the Scarlet Hawks football team, a much anticipated season for the football team actually getting underway in just a couple of hours from now. The team up in Quincy getting their season started. And an important note about this fall sports season that impacts next week's football matchup: we expected Milford to have 3 straight games away from their home football field. However, there has been continuing drama over at Franklin High School as they had hoped to get their new turf field fully operational by the end of August, but some construction delays has forced Franklin to be without the services of their home field for the beginning of this football season, and that will include their Week 2 matchup against Milford. So that means that a week from tonight, we will see football here at Milford High School as Milford will host the Franklin Panthers in their Week 2 matchup, which means we will have you covered for that game here on Milford TV. So look forward to that coming up next Friday night. We'll also have coverage as the season goes on of both the boys and girls soccer teams, and we'll keep you updated on the progress of the field hockey team as well. Always a ton to get to during the fall sports season. We'll travel to as many games as we possibly can. As back out of the timeout, we see the ace on the King Philip side. And the lead up to 5. It was seesawing back and forth, 1-point leads on both sides through the bulk of this set, but all of a sudden, King Philip finding their second win as Elise Pereira continues on the serve. Here's Tracy, a soft little lob shot over the net. King Philip able to handle it. Tracy teaming up that time with Julia Riordan for the block, leaving a little too much space in front of the net. King Philip able to find it, and they expand the lead to 15-9. Here's Riordan for Kelly Reichert. Sydney Phillips on the back line receives it. And now the hard smash just past the dive of Sydney Sutton. And meanwhile, Coach Seaver not pleased with the officials, seeing something on the King Philip side of the floor that apparently the officiating crew did not see. And again, Riordan unable to get that clean play off the net bounce. As this set continues, you can see Linda Zakili going over to individual players on the bench, doing her best to continue to help this program in really more of an assistant coach role this season. We saw her serve as an assistant coach on the boys volleyball team this past spring, worked a lot with the junior varsity team. So much volleyball knowledge from Coach Zakili. Huge help to these programs to continue to have her presence here in the Milford gym, as King Philip now establishes a 10-point lead, 19-9. So they are quickly pulling away with this set. As Pereira's service game continues, finally she sends one beyond the near sideline. And Milford now hoping to regroup. Valenzola back on the floor, replacing Tracy. And you can see Jill Valenzola trying to get the energy level up on the floor. Some strong words for her teammates. You could see in her face she was animated. Wanting to get more positive energy out on the floor. That's what a good captain does. Valenzola telling us that that playoff run for this volleyball team last year was the first playoff experience she ever had. Did not want to make it her last playoff experience, so you know she's hungry to get back to the postseason with this volleyball team again. But Milford in serious danger here of falling into a 2-0 hole. KP just 4 points away from claiming the set, and now 3, as Milford elected to let that ball go, and it clearly dropped inside the line. And Coach Seaver very frustrated now as he makes some personnel changes. Emily Pierre-Gustavo to the bench. Kate Lobuser out to the back line. A 22-10 King Philip lead. Riordan sets it, looking for Reichert. And now Coach Zakili heads over to the newcomer on this varsity squad, Emily Pierre-Gustavo, to impart some wisdom. Hard sinking serve. Another ace on the King Philip side. 23-10 now, with Michaela Palumbo on serve. Trying for the same type of serve that time around, but didn't have the height to clear the net. So now down 23-11. What can Milford do here? Can they pull off some dramatic come from behind action? Down 23-11. The serve away by Riordan. Set up well for Lobuser. Kate Lobuser delivers it just long outside of the far sideline, and once again, we see a set point opportunity for the King Philip Lady Warriors. Trying to take a 2-0 lead in this tough Hockomock League matchup on the road. Sort of a tone setter for these two programs, trying to measure up against one another. Kate Lobuser getting to that one. Reichert to the back line. Nina Pinto delivering it off the rooftop. And that is it for the second set, 25-11. KP able to take it, and Coach Seaver none too pleased as he brings the team over to huddle it up on the opposite side of the floor. A lot to go over as Milford kept that set competitive through the early stages, but eventually King Philip was able to adjust and run away with things for an easy 25-11 win. So it is a 2-0 lead now for the Lady Warriors. They will have a chance to close it out in set number 3, which will begin right after this quick break here on coverage of Scarlet Hawks Athletics on Milford TV. Once again, we welcome you inside the Milford Gymnasium as we begin coverage of set number 3, a Hockomock League rivalry matchup on this Friday, Milford versus King Philip. Plenty of Milford fans in attendance, a lot of enthusiastic fans in the bleachers on the opposite side of the floor. Unfortunately, those Milford fans have not had a lot to cheer about through the first 2 sets. King Philip with a 25-20 win in set number 1. And they cruise to a 25-11 victory in set number 2. They start off on serve here in set 3. Can Milford extend this match? I'll set it up for Sydney Phillips, and she gets the kill. Alves couldn't get there on the dive. And the first point of set 3 goes to King Philip. Riordan sets it up across the middle for Jill Valenzola, but she can't find the touch on the far sideline. Michaela Palumbo, who delivered the final serves of the second set, right back out there for set 3. That ball came in hotter than Kyra Alves expected, but she was able to adjust. Now here's Phillips. Valenzola was able to take some off of that one from the front line, but Milford was not able to do anything with it. And the first 3 points of the set now go to King Philip. Again, right back to Alves. Here's Reichert. Trying to rocket that one down in the front row, but ended up sending it underneath the net. So King Philip picking right back up where they left off at the end of set 2. Here's Reichert again, delivering that one hard, but right to Elise Pereira. Now Valenzola. And Milford cannot return. And Valenzola again trying to keep the morale up on the floor. Coach Seaver continues to be a bit displeased on the sidelines. Here's Phillips. Reichert gets to it, but Milford again fails to return. And 6-0, the deficit quickly growing in this third set. We did have a chance to meet with both Coach Seaver and the volleyball captains prior to the start of the season. We put together a season preview piece on the Milford Informer. That edition of the Informer airing later on this evening for those of you tuning into us via the live stream app or on milfordtv.net. So we encourage you to tune into that coming up at 7:30 this evening. And for those of you watching this game on YouTube or on our Milford TV educational channel, just search on YouTube for our September 8th edition of the Milford Informer to catch our girls volleyball season preview. Here's King Philip again setting it up for Phillips, and again she's able to get it to the back line past the dive of the libero Kyra Alves. And King Philip in full control. Coach Seaver very animated on the sideline, communicating with Alves. And Reichert could not handle that one. You could see the frustration on her face as soon as she made contact. Nine straight points on the service game for Michaela Palumbo. That one sent over the net, but quickly stuffed on the King Philip side. Kat Kometz refusing to let that one back over the net. And you can make it 10 consecutive points out of the chute in this third set for King Philip. Miscommunication between the captains, Reichert and Valenzola, both looking at one another, neither going after the ball. And a little bit of a test of the composure of this team through this first set. We have seen some moments where they have allowed the frustration to show through on their faces. That one hitting off the net, staying on the Milford side, and 12 points and counting now on the serve for the captain, Michaela Palumbo, and that ball is going to end up in the bleachers. And King Philip looking for a fast finish. to this performance. No timeouts called on the Milford sideline. Coach Seaver wanting to see his team figure this one out. King Philip getting the luxury of that ball bouncing just barely over the net. When things are going your way, those are the sorts of breaks you get. And it ends up with another King Philip kill. And before we continue, Sydney Sutton will again check back in on the floor. Kate Lobiser to the bench as Coach Seaver tries to put the right pieces in place to try to stem the tide. And that time Sutton was able to get the dig, sending it right back over the net. Now here's Phillips. Milford's front line able to soften the blow, and now Valenzola returns it. They'll set it up again for that hard smash from Phillips. The double hit on the Milford side looked to be the call, as King Philip takes a 15-0 lead, and finally we see this timeout called on the Milford sideline, and you can see right now Coach Seaver about as calm as he's been for the better part of these last two sets. King Philip getting out to a big lead in set number one, but Milford was able to counter, making it very close in the end, but King Philip was able to take it. The second set, it was the opposite. It was competitive through the early portion of set two, and then King Philip was able to go on a run to close it out 25-11. And now rattling off 15 straight points to open up this third set. And Milford is in real danger here of going down in the sweep. It would, of course, be the 6th time in the last 7 years that Milford would suffer the 3-set sweep defeat against King Philip, and it would extend the losing streak against this Lady Warriors team to 7 straight years. So back out on the floor after the timeout. It will once again, the serve will belong to Michaela Palumbo. And so one essential piece of equipment missing from the floor, trying to get play to continue. Finally sending the ball back out there. Hard to get the game going again without it. And so we see another ace in the meantime for King Philip. 16-0 as now we see Coach Seaver seated on the bench as the serve from Palumbo is delivered into the net, and that finally breaks the string. But how about 16 straight points on the serve of Palumbo? So right now, Milford with some work to do as Pinto takes over the serve. Sinks quickly towards the middle, but Pereira was able to get to it. Delivered back over towards the right side for Milford, where a couple of players could not team up to get the return. And so after 16 straight serves on the King Philip side, we just see the single serve for Milford, and now KP goes back to work with Kat Kometz behind the line. Valenzola sends it over with a single shot. They'll set it up over the middle now for Reichert. She softly delivers it. And from the left side, King Philip sends it into the net. And so now 17-2. Jill Valenzola with a couple of hard bounces. She lets that ball go. She'll reset here. This time the serve away cleanly. Popped straight in the air for Phillips. This time we don't see that hard rocket return, instead just softly delivered, but equally effective. Elise Pereira will now take a seat on the bench. Caroline Robertson a junior out on the floor. This is a predominantly upperclassmen varsity squad for King Philip. Heavy dose of juniors with several seniors mixed in. The lone underclassman is Grace Ellie, the sophomore. And the front row right now, teaming up to help get another kill for King Philip, who is just 6 points away from a dominant sweep victory. Rachel Villot with the serve, couldn't get it over. 19-3, the lopsided score, as Kelly Reichert will travel behind the line. This match going just beyond the 1 hour mark right now. Some fairly quick moving sets. Milford desperately hoping for a comeback that will keep us here a little bit longer, but King Philip starting to close in on a third set victory. A win for King Philip would bring them quickly back to the 500 mark after losing that opening day match to Walpole. They send their star, Sydney Phillips, on serve. Deflected out of play by the Lady Hawks. It brings the score to 21-3, and very quiet in the Milford gym right now. All of the Milford fans that have been so invested in this game to this point now solemnly seated in the bleachers. The score now 22-3. Phillips again sends it away, and Kelly Reichert just able to pull those hands back down, realizing the serve would go long, so now 22-4. Sabrina Harstick back into the game. She will take over on serve. Harstick now a senior. This current senior class here at Milford High School is a class that has seen a lot of coverage on Milford TV, really starting our sports coverage in earnest when this group was in their freshman year. Juliana Tracy able to deliver that one back over from the front row. This time they get it over her reach, but Reichert able to get there. Now King Philip just able to keep that one in on the far side. And the score updated at 23-5. Julianne Rando now takes over the serve. And the double hit for Milford. And that will bring up match point on the King Philip side, 24-5. An opportunity here for the senior Julianne Rando to close it out. Hard serve to the back line. Harstick digs it. Reichert over the middle. And that time the double hit on the KP side extends the match for the moment at 24-6. And Sydney Sutton returns to the floor, replacing Juliana Tracy. She will take over on serve. The serve away from Milford. Now right up the middle for Rando, but she delivers it too strong beyond the back line. Milford trying to focus on just a single play at a time, hoping to hang around in this match just a little bit longer. Soft shot that time for Phillips. Good awareness for Valenzola up front to flick it back over. Now Harstick over towards Julia Riordan, but the ball ends up ricocheting out of play, and that is your volleyball match for today, 25-7. And in the end, it does go in the books as another 3-set sweep for King Philip against Milford. Their dominance in this season series continues. And so with the victory, King Philip improves to 1-1 overall on the season. And Milford falls in their first volleyball matchup of this 2017-18 fall sports season. So a lot to talk about for this team and their coaching staff before they take the floor again. The next match for Milford coming up next week, as Milford will take on the Franklin Lady Panthers on the road on Monday, September 11th, a 5 o'clock start over in the Franklin Fieldhouse. And so Milford hoping to get back on track in that game against Franklin. But that will wrap up our coverage here for tonight. A 3-set sweep for King Philip over Milford. A big thank you to our Milford TV crew on hand for our first game of this fall season. Our director, Mike Sperling, and our camera operator, Rob O'Keefe. And I am Tim Coed. Again, that final score one final time, a 3-set sweep as King Philip defeats Milford. This has been a presentation of Milford High School Athletics here on Milford TV. So long, everybody.